right. We're back on YouTube. Thank you very much for staying tuned. We have technical issues. Sometimes we do have them, but nothing that we can't handle. Okay, so we read the book by Awolowo earlier. The book, of course, is called The Political Philosophy of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. All right, so we did that earlier, and we're just about to start reading Adventures in Power Book 1, My March Through Prison by Papa Obafemi Awolowo, where we had that issue. So now we're just going to go straight to that book. Okay, but let me just check YouTube to be sure we're good, and then we can get started. Olólùfẹ́ tó ti ń retí ẹ̀ ló ń bọ̀ lọ́nà yìí. Bébí mo rí rẹ mo bọ̀ nírìn àjò. Ìfẹ́ olóyin tí kò lábàwọ́n. This man is brilliant. He's a fantastic songwriter. Beautiful Nubia. Okay, I think we're good on YouTube. If you're joining on YouTube, please like and share. Thank you for being here, and apologies that you have to start up. Well, you're not starting over again. We're just continuing from where we stopped. So, but glad to have you back. Okay, let's get to the book now. So we're reading Arrest. By the way, quick background. Before November 62, from September to November, I had been moved from place to place, right? He had been under house arrest. First, it was in Ibadan, in his house at Okebola, and then from there to Ikene, from Ikene to Lekki to Ikoyi. Was under house arrest, and it was troubled for many years. And if you read the first book, Adventures in Power Book 1, you see how people were, there was a situation where people got on the lorry, Bole Kaja, and traveled all the way from Ikorodu to Ikene to go and, she greet him, and just show solidarity. People loved the man, and thank God we still love him. So that was from September to November. The second day of November 1962 marked a new but not unexpected turning point in an episode which had a much earlier beginning. I did not go to bed until about 2 o'clock that morning. The Coca Commission of Inquiry was on. I had repeatedly pleaded with the commission to let me go to Ibadan under police escort to collect some files and documents which were relevant to my case before the inquiry, and with which I intended to refresh my memory. My pleas were repeatedly turned down. This was sometime in August 1962. During the last week of October 1962, Chief M.E.R. Okorodudu, leading counsel to the commission, surprisingly accosted me in the lobby of the Senate building, where the inquiry was being held. Since the commencement of the inquiry on 23rd July, he had carefully avoided me. On this occasion, however, he was particularly cordial. After we had exchanged greetings, he said that as the inquiry was approaching its end, he wanted to find out two things from me. Firstly, how long was my cross-examination of Chief S.L. Akintola likely to last? According to the order of appearance, Chief Akintola was to testify before me, and I was to testify last. To this question, my answer was that I could not say until Akintola had given evidence. The facts or distortion of facts or falsehoods testified to by him, as well as his cooperation or the lack of it in the course of my cross-examination of him, would determine the length of such cross-examination. In any case, I would end my cross-examination of him when I was satisfied that I had extracted from him as much testimony favorable to my case as was possible, and that I had fully covered all the points testified to by him. Secondly, how long would my own evidence take? My answer was I don't know. All I was sure of was that my evidence in chief would end when I had said all that I judged to be of evidential value in the circumstances, and having regard to the testimonies as they touched me and my administration already given before the inquiry. He reminded me that the commission, by the law which set it up, had to submit its report not later than 31 December 1962 and would need some time. after concluding its public sittings to prepare its report. I assured him I was aware of this, but I stressed that as a central figure in the whole drama, I had a duty to myself and to the Commission not to rush the presentation of my case. In the event of the likelihood of the time limit being exceeded, it will be open to the federal government to extend it, and I could see no harm or difficulty in doing that. After this ostensibly casual conversation, it occurred to me that having regard to the statutory deadline for submitting its report, the Commission might speed up its work to ensure that Chief Akintola was in the witness chair before the end of the first week in November. So it became necessary that I should conclude the preparation of my own case in real earnest. But I had none of my own documents, papers, or files relevant to the inquiry in my possession. As far back as 21st December, as far back as 21 or 21st September, Mr. Lin had searched my house in Ibadan and my residence at Bell Avenue and had on the pretext that he was looking for subversive documents, removed all my files, documents, and personal diaries, the whole lot, to his office in Lagos. From the beginning of October, I repeatedly sent a message to Mr. Lin asking him to let me have back those of my documents and files that were not considered subversive, but I received no favorable response. As a result, after the conversation with Chief Okorodudu, I stayed up late every night in order to read the verbatim reports of the Commission's proceedings and to draw on my memory and piece together my recollections of events spanning a period of almost 6 years of very active and vigorous administration. However, on 1 November, my heart was particularly gladdened when, after my return from the inquiry, Mr. Lin called on me to deliver some of my documents and files. Mr. Lin called upon me to deliver some of my documents and files which had been with him since September. Immediately after dinner, I went to work to select those that were relevant from among them. But I discovered to my chagrin that the more important documents, files, and diaries were still with Mr. Lin. By the way, Mr. Lin was an Irishman that worked, with the government at the time. So he says he discovered to his chagrin that the more important documents, files, and diaries were still with Mr. Lin. Thus, my gladness was short-lived. Mr. Lin had falsely raised my hopes, and as the events of 2 November would show, he had deliberately and malevolently done so in order to cause my discomfiture. However, as I said, I did not go to bed until about 2 o'clock in the early hours of 2 November 1962, and I did not wake up until after 7 o'clock, which was about 2 hours later than was my wont. As usual, on waking that morning, I went through my physical and devotional exercises. At about 8 o'clock, I was shaving when my wife came into my room and said quietly in Remo dialect, "Baba Segun, ọkùnrin oníjọ̀gbọ̀n yẹn ti túndé," meaning Segun's father, "That troublesome man is here again." "Lin?" I asked. "Yes, Lin." "Where is he?" "Downstairs." "Let him come up." He came up, and with shaving foam on my chin, I met him at the entrance to my room, which had a wash basin, which I was using for my shave. He was accompanied by a senior police officer, a Nigerian, who was introduced by Mr. Lin as Mr. Ezekwem. Mr. John Lin himself is Irish. We greeted one another, and I shook hands with each of them. Before Lin could open his mouth to say anything, I queried, "What bad news have you for me this morning?" "I have never brought you bad news," he retorted with a touch of resentment. "But since we met, you have never brought me good news." He did not reply, but he was visibly agitated. There was a frown on his face, and his mustache seemed to quiver. As Lin and I exchanged these words, I moved into the office, which was next door to my room, and he and Mr. Ezekwem followed closely after me. On entering the office, Mr. Ezekwem laid his right hand on my left shoulder and recited the usual formula, "In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby arrest you on a charge of treasonable felony, conspiracy to commit a felony, and conspiracy to effect an unlawful purpose. You are not obliged to say anything, but whatever you say will be taken down and may be given in evidence at the trial." "Is this what you call good news?" I turned to Mr. Lin and asked. He gave no answer, but he was plainly embarrassed. He put his hands in his trousers pockets, stiffened up his body a wee bit, and twisted his lips before he could relax. I put another question. "What next?" "You will come with me to the High Court at Tafawa Balewa Square." I inquired when, and he quickly snapped back, "Immediately." I then told him that as he could see, I was still having my shave, and I wanted to complete it. After that, I would like to have my bath and get dressed before I could go with him to the court. But I added, if he insisted, I could follow him as I was, with my bedroom attire, half-shaved, unkempt, and unwashed. He agreed to wait. I went through the rest of my morning toilet with outward calm. I'll tell that again. He agreed to wait. I went through the rest of my morning toilet with outward calm, but it meant that I had to contain and quell a furiously rushing internal review of events. Did I deserve all this ill-motivated assault on my body and on my political standing and reputation? By the way, there's another episode before this one. You know, what happened to him while he was moving from place to place. Maybe I'll read that some other time. But they dealt with this man. But thank God they did, because it was the last man standing eventually anyway. So thank God. All things work together for good for those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Romans 8 verse 28. Where were we? Did I deserve all this ill-motivated assault on my body and on my political standing and reputation? Judged from this catalogue of some of the acts of humiliation which had been directed against me since May. On 25 May, the meeting of the Western Regional House of Assembly, which was held that morning with the prior consent of the Prime Minister, Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, ended in violent disturbance. Another meeting, which was convened on the afternoon of the same day, also with the consent of the Prime Minister, went fairly smoothly until it was suddenly disbanded by a smoke bomb on the orders of the Inspector General of Police in Lagos. From that time, events moved rather fast and ominously. Let me just quickly explain something in light of our conversation about state police earlier. 1962, the federal government used the Nigerian police force to wreak havoc in Western region. But that didn't stop us from still having Nigerian federal police force. You get the point? So the point is not to say that because of something we don't need state police. You will have folks that want to abuse it, but that doesn't mean it's not necessary. Okay? 1 second, I need a drink, please. Empress, one day you call the Bible verse, have you? Empress, one day you call the Bible verse, have you? Yes, no. Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. All right. I'm trying to contain myself. It's a bit emotional, but let's get into it. If you're on Facebook, thank you for being here. Please like and share. And if you're on YouTube, please do the same. For those on Twitter, please like and repost. For those of us on TikTok, let's keep our tapping. Let's get these numbers to 70K. Drop a gift, drop a heart me. Let's push the live to the FYP together. We have a very good number where we can go higher. So please, let's do that. Thank you very much. Lola, I see you. Well done. I think that Boski, no. Ebola Badibai. I went through the rest of the morning toilet without water. The meeting of the Western Regional House of Assembly was held that morning with the prior consent of the Prime Minister, Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. It ended in violent disturbance. Another meeting, which was convened on the afternoon of that same day, also with the consent of the Prime Minister, went fairly smoothly until it was suddenly disbanded by a smoke bomb on the orders of the Inspector General of Police in Lagos. From that time, events moved rather fast and ominously. On 29 May, the Federal Parliament met. I'll tell again. On 29 May, the Federal Parliament met to pass a resolution declaring a state of emergency in the Western region. By the way, like we said the other day, they declared state of emergency in Western region without any form of violence in the Western region outside the Parliament. So people they fight inside Parliament, they can't declare state of emergency across the entire region. On the same day, I was served, on that same day, 29th May. On the same day, I was served with an order restricting me to with some difficulty and a touch of bravado on my part that I got the Inspector General, Mr. Bovell, to agree to let me to return to Ibadan to pack a few things for my enforced stay at Ikene. I arrived in Ikene on evening. I'll take that again. I arrived in Ikene on the evening of 31 May. 20 days later, I had to move to Lekki, a mosquito-infested island off Ekpe. After spending 13 days in Lekki, I was ordered back to Ikenne, this time to stay within a 1.5-mile radius of my house. Whilst in Lekki, I heard the news that the administration of the Western region from 1954 to 1962, with particular reference to certain boards and corporations, was going to be the subject of a commission of inquiry. On 4 July, I arrived back in Ikenne. On Friday, 20 July, another order of restriction to stay within a 1.5-mile radius of 7 Bell Avenue, Ikoyi, Lagos, as from 22 July, was served on me. On 18, 19, and 21 September, my houses in Ikenne and Ibadan and my residence at Bell Avenue were thoroughly searched. Then on 22 September, I was placed under house arrest. And to members of the public, I was rendered from that date completely incommunicado. Now, to cap it all, this. So the point is, it's trying to give us like a quick rundown of what had happened from 29th May, or from 25th May, all the way to 2nd November. Okay, how they've had to do all kinds of things, and essentially to pull him down. While these happenings were being contrived with ruthless determination, the Coker inquiry moved on with uninterrupted and remorseless progression. What had I done to deserve such humiliating and degrading treatment? I was satisfied that I had faithfully, dutifully, and honestly kept my charge. As leader of government business and premier, I had served my time and the people of the Western region well. As a political leader, I had conscientiously and relentlessly done all in my power to advocate and promote the best interests of the peoples of Nigeria. In the circumstances, I deserved nothing but praise and a hallowed place of honor. But instead, I was being pushed around like a worthless chattel by those who had not contributed anything, as indeed I had, to the progress of Nigeria and withal. I was now going to face charges of treasonable felony, etc. How long the trial would last, I had no means of guessing. Whatever its length, it was the outcome that was important. If I were acquitted, it would be glorious. If I were found guilty, I might go to gaol for life. What would this mean in practical terms? If while serving my sentence, I was judged by the prison authorities to be of good behavior, I might in all probability be released after serving 15 calendar years in all. This, I thought, would not matter too much. I was only about 54 years old, and I did and do certainly believe, despite King David's pronouncement to the contrary, that life begins at 70. During the moment of this internal review, I regarded my oppressors, persecutors, and political adversaries as a wicked and ruthless cabal. They controlled all the governments in the country, and hence all the political powers. They did not hide their unbending determination to bring about my political destruction, and if possible, my physical extermination as well. The situation was unavailing and dreadful, and the immediate prospect looked utterly gloomy and dark. My adversaries were formidable and merciless. I had caused them too much offense. I had dared to advocate the practice of democracy throughout the country, and I carried my campaign into the lion's own den. Just to be sure that we're all on the same page, where is the lion's own den in this context, please? I just want to be sure we're all on the same page. Anybody in the comment section, across all platforms, what does Papa mean by the lion's own den? Anyone? I'm taking a break intentionally. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Thank you. So you are listening. Thank you. No, it's not the Western region, no. It's the North. But thank you. Okay, I'm glad we are all here. Let's continue. Yes, thank you, everyone. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. We're not just listening, we're listening. All right. The situation was unavailing and dreadful, and the immediate prospect looked utterly gloomy and dark. My adversaries were formidable and merciless. I had caused them too much offense. I had dared to advocate the practice of democracy throughout the country, and I had carried my campaign into the lion's own den. I had dared to call on all the country's political leaders to introduce measures which would rapidly lead to the liberation of the entire masses of our people from the shackles of ignorance, poverty, and disease. I had also dared to call for the breaking of the North in particular and each of the other two regions into two separate regions. By the way, this particular matter started around 1955. The idea, I mean, it started before then, but in terms of the involvement of Papa and the Western region was more in 1955. And the idea basically was that at the time, there was a lot of clamor for people to have for different people to have their own regions. There was the Midwest, there was the COR in the Midwest from the Western region, COR in the East, then you had the Middle Belt in the North. And Awo championed it. Now, to be fair, and I should quickly say that, and I've talked about it before, the North did not want anybody to touch the North. Don't break the North at all. Middle Belt could cry if they didn't care. But they were just about don't break the North. They were not talking about other groups, just said don't break the North. The West was like, you know what, since these people want to break away from the West, let them break on one condition, that you do the same thing for the East. And the reason at first they didn't talk about the North was because the North at the time was in partnership with the West. Eventually, the West began to support the Middle Belt as well. As a matter of fact, Action Group and AWO supported both the UMBC and the COR movement with finances and in different ways to be able to help them accomplish their goal. And that's why I said, when you look at the Williams Commission report of 1958, the only region that made the case for another region to break out of it was the Western region. As a matter of fact, during that sitting or during the inquiry, Western region made the case for the Midwest made the case for themselves, Action Group also made the case for the Midwest. So the North did not want anybody to touch the North, don't break the North. The East, represented by Nnamdi Azikiwe at the time, was like, don't break the East, leave the North alone, but that West, break it into four. Now, keep in mind that at the time in the 1950s, the West was the smallest of the three. The East wasn't just Eastern Nigeria that we know today. It was all the way to Cameroon. Okay? It was all the way to Cameroon. So it was, when it comes to land mass at the time, it was the North, the East, and the West. The smallest one would be broken into four, according to Azikiwe's brilliant strategy. That's the kind of people that, the kind of mindset that people have in Nigerian politics. Okay? So all the while, Awolowo has always said that if people want to have new states, let them have the states. So the fact that Awolowo was that one of the problems that he had with that. So he says, I had also dared to call for the breaking of the North in particular and each of the other two regions into two separate regions. Above all, I had dared to denounce in no uncertain terms feudalism and the ethnic hegemony under which one ethnic group arrogates to itself the right to govern the country in perpetuity and to do what it likes regardless of the feelings of the other ethnic groups in the country. Which ethnic group was he talking about in this particular instance? Anybody in the comment section? No. Mr. Remy, yes. It was a Fulani. No, it was a Fulani. The Igbos had a plan. The Fulani were already in it. The funny thing that this Nigerian history is crazy. The funny thing is that the Igbos had a plan to do exactly what the Fulani was doing at the time. Their own plan was supposed to be 20 years in the making. They were supposed to accomplish it in 1964. But as of 62, the Fulani already had the power for 2 years. Okay, so before the Fulani even got the power to rule Nigeria in perpetuity, the Igbos were also planning to do the same thing. But the Fulani got it because of their own connivance with the British. And they were faithful. And like I said, they got a reward for their faithfulness and their ingenuity in the way they managed the North at the time. Okay. What should I do? In fact, let me read that part again. It says, above all, I had also dared to denounce in no uncertain terms feudalism and the ethnic hegemony under which one ethnic group arrogates to itself the right to govern the country in perpetuity and to do what it likes regardless of the feelings of the other ethnic groups in the country. What should I do in the prevailing and impending circumstances? Should I recant my standpoints, go on my knees and beg for mercy? Perish the thought. This was the command from my true self, and it came clear and vivid. The command was followed by an intense feeling of revulsion and rebuke against myself that such a thought had ever obtruded itself at all within me. At this instant, Shelley's mighty lines in his famous poem entitled Prometheus Unbound rushed into my recollection, and I recited them softly with complete and resolute. Approval. The suffer woes which hope thinks infinite, to forgive wrongs darker than death or night, to defy power which seems omnipotent, to love and bear, to hope till hope creates from its own wreck the thing it contemplates, neither to change, nor falter, nor repent. This, like thy glory, Titan, is to be good, great and joyous, beautiful and free. This alone, life, joy, empire, and victory. Having destroyed and banished from my mind that cowardly and negative thought intrusion, the only course open to me rushed into my mind with undimmed clarity. Relying on the justness of the cause which God had over the years inspired me to espouse, I was not in any doubt as to the ultimate triumph of that cause. In the faith of that ultimate victory, I made up my mind to go forward and fight, and do so every inch of the way with courage, grimness, resolution, relentlessness, and defiance. From 22 September, when I was placed under house arrest, I was not allowed to use my own car. In fact, no private car, including my wife's, was allowed inside the barbed wire fence. I'll take that again. From 22 September, when I was placed under house arrest, I was not allowed to use my own car. In fact, no private car, including my wife's, was allowed inside the barbed wire fence, which surrounded number 7 Bell Avenue. A police car driven by a police driver always took me to the sessions of the Coca inquiry. An assistant superintendent of police by the name of Agana was assigned to keep watch over me whenever I left 7 Bell Avenue to attend the proceedings of the Coca inquiry. He was to sit with me in the car. Whenever I was outside, in fact, let me pause. Somebody wrote something in the comment section. Someone said, I'm grateful that I share the same ancestry as Awolowo. I didn't want to talk, but when I read what you wrote, I'm going to pause. You see, was what some people ran away from in Nigeria and became Governor General. You could have done exactly what those people did as well. You recant, you grovel, you get on your knees, and you tell the other group you are the master. Let's work together, and there will be no problems anymore. Would that be a partnership of equals? No, it wouldn't. And that's where the issue is. Let's continue. So it says whenever he wanted to go to the Coca Commission of Inquiry, a policeman would have to be the one to drive him down there. And then there was another guy called Agana, was an assistant superintendent of police, ASP, and his job was to keep watch over Papa whenever he left 7 Bell Avenue to attend the proceedings of the Coca inquiry. He was to sit with me in the car. Whenever I was outside 7 Bell Avenue, he was to listen to every conversation between me and any other person. It was this car that carried me to the court. Other vehicles, including armed police vehicles, accompanied us in a procession led by Mr. Lin himself. My wife's car took the rear. Between the time when Lin and Ezekwem had come that morning and the time when we left for the court, about 1 hour's interval, there was very little time for me and my wife to exchange reactions to my arrest. When I was getting dressed, however, we did manage to exchange some words. As if she had read my mind, her first words were, "Why are they doing all these things to us?" Then she continued, "They have spared nothing in their determination to destroy us politically. You have been in politics only to serve Nigeria and to further... And, oh boy. As if she had read my mind, her first words were, "Why are they doing all these things to us?" Then she continued, "They have spared nothing in their determination to destroy us politically. You have been in politics only to serve Nigeria and not to further your own nest. Because of this, by God's grace, we will prevail over the wicked ones and all those who do evil to us." It's a great wife. No wonder she was called the jewel of inestimable value. I did not want her to follow me to court. I thought that since I was already under house arrest, it would not be necessary to send me into prison custody, and that I would be back in this quote-unquote home prison at the end of the day's proceedings at the Coker inquiry. It did not occur to me that the treasonable felony trial would commence immediately. My thinking was that my oppressors would consider it tidier to do one thing at a time. That is, firstly, to continue and finish with the Coker inquiry, and for the duration, let me remain under house arrest. Then, when the reasonable felony trial proper began, consider bail. I told my wife what I thought, but she insisted on going with me to the court. When I arrived in the courtroom, I met my colleagues, whom I had missed for more than 3 months past. They all rose to their feet and received me royally with warm and loud eclat. When I arrived in the courtroom, I met my colleagues, whom I had missed for more than 3 months past. They all rose to their feet and received me royally and with warm and loud eclat. If anyone had witnessed a jubilant welcome without being aware of what brought us together there, such a person would have been led to the conclusion that my colleagues and I had come there to celebrate a most pleasant political event which had been brought under my leadership. Indeed, such a person would not have imagined that my colleagues had been brought to court after 3 months restriction, which had climaxed in about 20 days of detention at the Broad Street prison. If you're on TikTok, please power tap, please. Thank you. It's showing inactivity, and it's important that we keep this live going. Among those in the courtroom who welcomed me were Michael Omishade, Ayo Akisonya, Ayo Akisonya, Lateef Jakonde, G.S. Olawoyin, Bisi Onabanjo, Alfred Chike Obi, and J.S. Tucker, now deceased. The star of the police investigation before trial was Mr. John Lynn, ably assisted by an expatriate police officer whose name was given as Killman. The latter boasted that he was once one of the crime investigators and interrogators immediately after the Allied Army's occupation of Germany in 1945. I never met him, but all those of my colleagues, including L.K. Jakonde, who had met him, were unanimous in their verdict that he was a very harsh person. The first time I ever met Mr. John Lynn was about 10:30 o'clock on the night of 18 September 1962. He entered the sitting room at 7 Bell Avenue as if he was in a great hurry, as indeed it turned out he was. He was accompanied by a Nigerian. He was all smiles, urbane and cordial. He introduced himself and then the Nigerian, whom he described as an inspector of police. My wife and I had just finished our dinner and, as usual, were chatting over current events. Our eating habit then was to have lunch at about 2 p.m. and dinner between 8 and 10 p.m. No breakfast. It was at Ikoyi prison that I changed to breakfast between 8 and 9 a.m. and dinner between 5 and 6 p.m. My wife also cultivated this habit when I wrote from prison to tell her of its beneficial effects on my health. When Mr. Lynn breezed into these guys were close, man. When Mr. Lynn breezed into the sitting room with his companion, we offered them chairs at the dining table. He had hardly taken a seat when he opened his mouth and declared, "Chief, I have a warrant to search your house and compound at Ikene." When I asked, "I'm on my way there now, and I have called to let you know." "Why tonight and not tomorrow? It is almost 11 o'clock. "It has to be tonight." He insisted with finality. "Would you like to come with us?" "Me? No, not at this hour of the night." "I will go with them," my wife offered. I turned to her and said in a soft tone but with unmistakable firmness, You are doing nothing of the kind. To follow two strangers and policemen at this, I'll tell that again. To follow two strangers and policemen at this unholy hour, when a state of emergency is on, no, you are certainly not going anywhere with them. Is there anyone at Ikene to attend to us and show us around the premises? Yes, my son Awolowo lives there, and Salami, one of my stewards, is there too. The compound is an open place, more or less a public place. There is no problem in getting access to it. As for the house, Wale will show you around. At this juncture, I went upstairs to collect the key to my wardrobe. I also sent for my private secretary, Mr. Biodun Falade, to come to the dining room. On my return, I handed the key of my wardrobe to Mr. Lin and said, "This key opens my wardrobe. Inside the wardrobe, you will find other keys which open all the locked receptacles in the house." "Thank you very much," he said with a beaming smile and an apparent feeling of triumph. In the meantime, my wife had gone to her room upstairs to fetch the keys to her wardrobes, which were the only things she locked in the house. She handed them to Mr. Lin. "Thank you very much, Mrs. Awolowo," he said with undisguised triumph. "My private secretary, Mr. Falade, here he is, will go with you and will give you whatever assistance you may require of him during the search." "Oh, thank you ever so much. Good night." As he was about to depart, I asked pointedly, "When are you going to search Ibadan and here?" "Chief, I assure you, I am not going to search here or Ibadan. I am searching only your Ikene house and compound." On this note, we parted. After the departure, my wife expressed some fear. Since neither she nor I had followed them, they might plant some unlawful things in the compound or house and then claim to have found things that were not there before. I calmed her by saying that Falade and Wale would take care of any attempt at foul play. That night, the house and the compound at Ikene were thoroughly searched. Nothing incriminating was found, so Falade reported the following morning. On 19 September, the compound was searched again, this time without any prior intimation to me, and in the absence of Mr. Falade, Wale, Salami, or any other person representing me. Here is the story of the search as told by Mr. Lin himself. I am Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of CID, Force Headquarters. Sometime in September 1962, I received an information. In consequence of the information, I obtained search warrants. These are the search warrants dated 18/9/62. On that very day, I went to the house of the 27th accused at 7 Bell Avenue, Ikoyi. I saw him. I told him that I was going to execute a search warrant in his premises at Ikene. I asked him whether he would accompany me. I do not think I showed him the search warrant. He declined my offer as it was late in the evening. He gave me his private secretary to accompany me. I then went to Ikene with the private secretary. We got to Ikene at about midnight. I executed the search warrant in the premises of 27th accused. He's talking about Papa. There were other police officers with me, vice ASPs Chukuma and Nidam and others. A son of 27th accused by the name Oluwole was present. We removed a number of documents. I gave instructions to Mr. Nidam to give receipts to the son of 27th accused. I left Ikene at 1:30 a.m. for Ijebu Day. Under cross-examination by me, he continued. I came out about 10:30 p.m. You offered that your private secretary, Biodun Falade, should accompany me on condition that I would give him transport back to Lagos. You gave me the keys to your wardrobe, and your wife gave me her own keys. You told me that in your wardrobe will be found keys that will give further access to all the rooms. I took the keys and left with your private secretary. I made a thorough search of the house and the compound. On getting there that night, I saw the whole compound lighted. It was an open compound. It was after I had received information at Ijebu that something had taken place at your house and something burnt that I gave instructions to Asoko to search your house. There was no search warrant for second search. I used my power under the emergency regulations to conduct the second search. I spoke to you on the 20th September of 4 empty shelves having been found in your compound. You told me you did not know whether they were empty or live or how they got there. Asoko told deep in the ground. It is possible that the shells would have been planted in the compound. So that's the record of proceedings. On 21 September, Mr. Lin, contrary to his earlier assurance, had without my prior knowledge went to my house at Ibadan and searched it together with the compound and outhouses. He removed all the books, documents, and files that struck his fancy as subversive. He did not have access to my wardrobe and filing cabinets because the keys were with me in Lagos. He caused the wardrobe and cabinets to be sealed with red wax and ordered armed policemen to be on guard there. In the meantime, the chief clerk in the chambers of Obafemi Awolowo and Co. in Ibadan, Mr. Eli, proceeded to Lagos in order to collect the keys from me. But before he returned, my wardrobe had been forced open and my filing cabinets, 2 of them, had been removed to the police headquarters in Ibadan and forced open there. The entire contents were later removed to Mr. Lin's office in Lagos, where Chief Akintola and his friends, including Chief M.E.R. Okorodudu, Chief Anikaode, Chief Adenire Ogunsoya, and others, had free access to them. They made us The entire contents were later removed to Mr. Lin's office in Lagos, where Chief Akintola and his friends, including Chief M.E.R. Okorodudu, Chief Anikaode, Chief Adenire Ogunsoya, and others, had free access to them. They made use of the contents of some of them at the Coker inquiry after my arrest, though they had not been previously tendered in evidence by me or in my presence at the inquiry. On the same day of 21 September, after finishing the search at Ibadan, and again contrary to his earlier assurances, Mr. Lin suddenly swooped on me at 7 Bell Avenue and told me that he had a warrant to search the house and compound there. He was given a free hand. On this occasion, he was extremely rude, nasty, and reckless in the way he went about his business. He cleared the house of almost all documents and books, and one expatriate senior police officer by the name of Mr. Needham, who accompanied him, admonished him to my hearing that some of the books he had removed could not in any remote sense be regarded as subversive. He found on my table some money, about £2,000. He removed it. He also removed the letter which I had written to welcome Pandit Nehru, who was to arrive on 23 November. I'll tell that again. He also removed the letter which I had written to welcome Pandit Nehru, who was to arrive in Nigeria on 23 September on an official visit. I did not hide my indignation at these 2 acts. I thought it was both stupid and an excessive misuse of power to regard Nigerian currency notes and a letter to Pandit Nehru as subversive documents, and I told him so. He was furious. He stared at me. His mustache seemed to be rising and falling, and ran downstairs with the money and the letter. On his return, I told him that if he did not return my money and letter, I would take steps which might compel him or the federal government to take action, which all of them would later regret. Mr. Needham and another police officer, a Nigerian, who were present, appealed to him to return the money and my letter. He again ran angrily downstairs, all the time perspiring profusely and breathing heavily, and brought back the money and the letter. In parenthesis, the £2,000 was the last amount of money the action group could mobilize to assist some of its leaders in the Middle Belt and North to continue to organize the party in their areas. It was shared among 3 persons only: Messrs. J.S. Tarker, Ibrahim Imam, and Patrick Doherty. About a week after receiving this money, Tarker and Imam stated publicly with reference to the action group that the cow was no longer milking. Let's leave the matter. When I said that, this is what I meant. I told you, since the 1950s, they were support. No, it's not about water. It was about pain. It's about pain. Sit down. Thank you. It's pain. But I'll take your advice. Wàá torí àwọn èèyàn kan wàá torí wọn gbààwẹ̀ wọ́n á dẹ̀ máa jọ̀sán wọ́n á bẹ̀rẹ̀ pé ṣé bí o pẹ́ ẹni tó bá yẹ ti tán nìyẹn wọ́n máa tún they move to the next. No, action group Baba, everybody, that's the cash cow for many people, for many groups and many parties in different parts of Nigeria. I mean, he did what he did, and he did well, but learning from him, ṣe ẹ̀kọ́ ní kálukú máa gbẹ́rù ẹ̀, máa ràn lọ́wọ́ ọ̀bọ̀ látọ̀ọ̀kan ni. You help, you must help, you should help as a human being, but àfibíṣòro rẹ̀ ló pọ̀ jù Nàìjíríà yìí. Àwọn eléyìí ò tiẹ̀ bàjẹ́, bọ́kọ̀ sọ pé the cow was no longer milking ni. Àwọn kan tó worse jẹ́lé lọ́wọ́, we'll get to that later. In the matter of searches, my house at Ibadan was a center of special attraction. My house at Ikene was searched twice. My residence at Bell Avenue was searched once. But my house and compound at Ibadan were searched 21 times. The 21st occasion was the night of 30 June 1964. That is the night before my appeal to the Supreme Court was dismissed. My wife and some of our friends and relations who stayed in the house with her were about to start the night's prayer when Mr. Lin with his men rushed into the house and went straight to my wife's room. He shouted, "Mrs. Awolowo, we have come to search your house once again." "Is that so?" my wife inquired quietly. She was just recovering from a sleep disc and was weak. She as well as those who were with her, including my sister, Mrs. Olufumilayo Awofeso, now Alhaja Awofeso, felt outraged and dispirited. Outraged because of the police searches, which seemed to have no end, and because of the unholy hours almost invariably chosen by Mr. Lin to conduct them, and dispirited because it had until then been hoped, in spite of my letters to my wife to the contrary, that my appeal might be allowed the following morning. Now, with Mr. Lin's visit with the search warrant, that hope was seriously dimmed. But hope springs eternal in the human breast. And so, in spite of the search, my wife and others still hoped that the following day would bring joyful news and that these incessant searches would end. Let me pause. No. I see what you guys are writing in the comment section. They eventually work together. Yakub Gowanda released Awo, also from the Middle Belt. Calm down. Calm down. I told you that Awolowo too was from the Middle Belt.
To my wife's question, Mr. Lin's answer was an emphatic yes.
It is well. To my wife's question, Mr. Lin's answer was an emphatic yes. Then my wife remarked, "Very good. We have come of age tonight. This is the 21st time you have searched this house. Where would you like to start from?" "Right here in your room. We will start with your wardrobe." The entire compound and all the houses therein were thoroughly searched. A mechanical steel detector was used intensively to test almost every square foot of the floor of the house and compound. Every room was searched and every receptacle, however small, was opened and inspected. The whole business became so ridiculous that my nephew, Abimbola Awofeso, went to fetch a pot of stew and reminded Mr. Lin that he had omitted to examine the contents. Mr. Lin stared at him for a few seconds with obvious indignation and resentment, but did not say a word. Koko said he is no. On 22 September 1962, Mr. Lin showed up again at 7 Bell Avenue, Ikoyi. This time, he entered the compound via a miss. I was busy in my office upstairs. Suddenly, I heard some noise. There were exclamations and something of a hubbub. Before I could disengage myself from what I was doing, my wife entered with a look of surprise and exasperation. "That man with an evil spirit is here again. He is accompanied by many armed policemen. They have driven away all our visitors, drivers, and domestic staff. Why they should do these things, I don't know." Why? She had scarcely finished her report when Mr. Lin himself rushed into my office. "Chief, good afternoon." "Yes, good afternoon. What is the matter? What is happening? Why all the noise?" "I have come to serve an order on you restricting you to the premises of this house. You are not to go outside this compound at all. You are not to receive visitors except by special police permission. and none of the members of your family or of your staff is to visit or stay with you unless by written permission by the administrator. The administrator was Chief M.A. Majakodumi. Who was Majakodumi? He was the administrator during the state of emergency that was declared in Western Region, appointed by none other than Tafawa Balewa himself. All the time, Mr. Lin and I were standing facing each other. My wife was on my left, also facing Mr. Lin. These were serious pronouncements. I invited Mr. Lin to sit down so that we could examine them carefully. There's nothing to examine, snapped Mr. Lin. These are the orders and you are to abide by them. I will obey the orders, but let's go through them one by one. I then proceeded to enumerate what I wanted. I wanted permits for my children, 5 of them, to visit or stay with me as they liked. I also wanted permission for my cook and steward to stay with me. Mr. Lin interrupted me and declared, I have just 6 blank permits here with me, already signed by the administrator. If you give me 6 names now, I shall fill them in. Very well then. Here are the names of my wife and 4 children. My daughter Omotola is still in the UK, but she's expected back in October. I gave him the 5 names. After he had handed 5 permits to me, I told him I wanted more for my cook and steward, my wife's female attendant, my private secretary, my confidential secretary, a gardener to take care of the compound, and my barber. After hearing this list, Mr. Lin stated emphatically, "This is too much. The administrator will not have..." This is the former premier. This was the man who fought for Nigeria's independence.
The administrator will not approve and will not recommend. Anyhow, you can have either a cook or a steward.
After hearing this list, Mr. Lin stated emphatically, "This is too much. The administrator will not approve and I will not recommend. Anyhow, you can have either a cook or a steward, not both. Most people these days employ a cook or steward. Then I am certainly not one of most people. I have 2 cooks and 2 stewards, and I want one of each with me here. All right, you can have a cook and a steward, but no female attendant for your wife. The steward should assist her. There will be no private secretary, and there will be none of the others. It is getting too much. And you want a barber too. You can't leave your house. How do you cut your hair? No, the administrator will not agree, and I will not recommend. In any case, I have no more signed permits here with me. You should send for more." After a good deal of argument and haggling, Mr. Lin asserted, "All this is too much. Barber, gardener, private secretary, certainly not." He rose up abruptly and went downstairs as if he was going away. Throughout the dialogue, my wife interposed only once and said to Mr. Lin, "Are you seriously suggesting that a male steward should attend to me in my room? This is cruel." Mr. Lin was visibly embarrassed by this remark. About 10 minutes after he had left our presence, Mr. Lin came back. He opened his briefcase and took out a wad of papers. They all contained the signature of the administrator. "What are the names of your cook and steward and of your wife's female attendant?" he asked. I gave him their names, and the people were given permits to stay with us. He refused to give a permit for my private secretary, Mr. Faraday, to stay with us, or for him and my confidential secretary to come in whenever they desired. In the end, my confidential secretary was permitted to come in on Saturdays for 3 hours at a time. I also wanted the barber once every fortnight, and this was granted. However, Mr. Lin obstinately refused to give Faraday a permit. "He is too clever a person to be allowed to visit you," he remarked. "Are you thereby suggesting that the others who have been given permits are not clever?" "No, I mean that Faraday is too dangerous. He is reputed to have a photographic memory. He is said to be able to give detailed reports without notes. No, he is too dangerous to be allowed to visit you." "How did you come by these fabrications concerning Faraday? If you're on TikTok, please power tap so we can hear about Faraday. Thank you. How did you come by this? Seriously, we have to get the numbers up on TikTok, please. Let's power tap. I know you're enjoying how we read, but please power tap. We're almost done for today anyway. Baba is a fantastic writer, and I said is intentionally. Let's go on. How did you come by these fabrications concerning Falade? Fabrications? Anyway, he shall not be allowed to visit you. With regard to my daughter, Omotola, he undertook to issue a permit for her if I let him know 2 days before our arrival in the country. He kept his promise in this connection. The date was still 22 September 1962. The time was now about 5:50 p.m. and Mr. Lin proceeded to perform a police ritual. He showed me a book and referred me to certain pages in it. After administering his usual caution, he wanted to know if I had anything to say about it. My statement was short and ran as follows. The book shown to me by Mr. Lin titled 12 Portraits of Power. Excuse me. Oh dear.
Roger, give me my topo. Please give me a second. I'm going to talk about this power thing in a bit. I hope you get people to support us on this platform. I got some things over the weekend. That's why this thing is still on, but I have to switch. Give me a second, please.
Please give me a second. I have an issue with power. And I'm going to talk about this power thing in a bit. I hope we get people to support us on this platform. I got some things over the weekend. That's why this thing is still on, but I have to switch. Give me a second, please. A moment. It's going to be more than a second. I'll be back soon. Thanks.
So we're trying to get it sorted, and I can continue now. Hopefully, we will get it done without needing. We're trying to set up some things, and maybe I'll talk about it at the end.
So we're trying to get it sorted, but I can continue now. Hopefully, they will get it done without needing me. We're trying to set up some things, and maybe I'll talk about it at the end. We have about 2 projects. So it's to overhaul the old power thing. The second is to set up the studio, and we got some stuff past couple of days. That's why these lights are not off, even though the power is off. So yes, please.
Maybe after the session towards the end. We're almost done. We still have about 20 minutes.
All right, I'll talk more about it, and I hope maybe after the session. I mean, towards the end, we're almost done. We still have about 20 minutes thereabout. Umbo. Okay, let's get back to this. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for staying tuned. It says here, after administering the usual caution, he wanted to know if I had anything to say about it. My statement was short and ran as follows. The book shown to me by Mr. Lin, titled 12 Portraits of Power, belongs to Dr. S.D. Onobamiro, who lent it to me some months ago. I cannot remember the exact date. All the pen markings therein, I believe, are in the handwritings of Dr. Onobamiro. I am not prepared to say anything more at this stage. I am not prepared to say anything now about the tactical committee of the action group save that the committee was dissolved in March 1962 by the Federal Executive Council of the Action Group. I dictated this to ASPM Chukuma. I signed it, and he also signed as having recorded it. Before Mr. Lin finally left that evening, I asked him whether I could, under this new restriction order, attend the proceedings of the Coca Commission of Inquiry. He told me he had no instructions about this, but he would ask the administrator and later let me know. In the meantime, I was to keep within the confines of 7 Bell Avenue. After Mr. Lin's departure, my wife and I felt truly desolate. All our visiting friends and most of our staff had been forcibly driven away late in the afternoon. We were left with steward, Umoro, who were both in their rooms. My wife's female attendant was somewhere in the house. All of them, we soon learnt, were dejected and sad. Even before my wife and I could reach the ground floor to look around the premises to see what had happened and was happening, our ears were violently assailed by the jarring, monotonous, repetitive, and to us meaningless sounds. Robert, Robert, Robert. These were followed by an exchange of messages, incomprehensible to us, which always ended with over. So from that evening, all night and all day long, until I was moved to a new abode at the Broad Street prison, my wife and I had to suffer the irritation of the never-ceasing noise of Robert, 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 over. On inspection, we found that the compound had already been fenced in with very thick barbed wire. There were 2 big police tents. The fence was guarded by 6... On inspection, we found that the compound had already been fenced in with very thick barbed wire. There were 2 big police tents. The fence was guarded by 6 armed policemen, and there were 2 other armed policemen at the entrance to the compound. In addition, there were about 20 further policemen who were sitting down near the tents and in other parts of the compound. There were 4 police vehicles inside the compound. Excuse me, please.
Take it so that I'll show it green. Why are you walking and see something is wrong with you? Sorry about that. I'll do that part again. On inspection, we found that the compound had already been fenced in with very thick barbed wire. There were 2 big police tents. The fence was guarded by 6
I'll do that part again. On inspection, the compound had already been fenced in with very thick barbed wire. The fence guarded by 6 armed policemen, and there were 2 other armed policemen at the entrance to the compound. In addition, there were about 20 further policemen who were sitting down near the tents, Shogun Layeni, and in other parts of the compound. There were 4 police vehicles inside the compound. So that's about 28 policemen. There were 4 police vehicles inside the compound. On top of all this, senior police officers came in about every 30 minutes to inspect the men who were guarding the premises. Thank God my wife and I were and still are good sleepers. But when any of us had occasion to get up in the night, it was all clicking of boot heels and the cacophony of Robert, Robert, Robert over. For a few minutes, my wife and I felt distressed. Where was it all leading to? I asked myself. A declaration of state of emergency in the West, dissolution of the Western House of Assembly, restriction to Ikenne and Lekki, and now house arrest. We were completely cut off from the rest of the world. We had arrived at 7 Bell Avenue on 22 July 1962. The telephone there was disconnected on Friday, 20 July 1962. Henceforth, it was only our children who could see me at any time. Our friends must apply or obtain permits to see me. Our friends must apply for and obtain permits to see me. I did not know the whereabouts of my colleagues. Excuse me.
Can you do something? Our friends must apply for and obtain permits to see me. I did not know the whereabouts of my colleagues, though there were rumors upon rumors about them. Some of them.
Where was I? Our friends must apply for and obtain permits to see me. I did not know the whereabouts of my colleagues, though there were rumors upon rumors about them, some of which were later confirmed. My wife was the first to break the silence. We had now returned to the living room. These people are these people are really determined to show us that they have all the worldly power in Nigeria. Indeed, I concurred. But they seem to forget, she continued, that God, the only great and true arbiter throughout the world, is almighty and still can take from them at any time the power which they are now misusing to oppress and cause sorrow to others. Their aim, I remarked, is to destroy the Action Group and all that I stand for in politics. See how they pile on me one upsetting and harrowing event after another. It is their design to destroy me physically also. If Abiodun Akerele's boast is anything to go by, as you know he is very high up in Akintola's camp, it is their hope that if they harass me enough, I will commit suicide. But in this, even Biodun and others like him, who have had many years of close association with me, have misjudged my character. Only those who fear crisis and tribulation, or have done things of which they are terribly ashamed, or are out of their minds, or have no faith in the ultimate triumph of truth, only these commit the cowardly act of suicide. I thank God that I am none of this. The fight has begun. It may be short, it may be long. Whatever it is, I will do it bravely and never say fail. Even God himself will fight for us, my wife added. I'd like to stop here today. I'd like to stop there today. We'll continue next week. As well. Thank you very much for listening. Very emotional, and it gets, should I say, worse or more emotional as you read. I'm thinking, so in the beginning I was thinking of just reading certain portions of this book, but might as well read everything. Might as well read everything. It's bulky. Many of the books I just read portions intentionally, but this one maybe we'll just read everything because I think it helps us appreciate what Papa went through, and you also understand why I always talk about certain people the way they do. There's a way they talk about the Northerners, especially the feudal guys, the political class, the Igbos. After they are dealt with them in Olga, they learned a lesson. And then certain Yoruba people, and you mentioned some of the names, I don't want to repeat. And there's a reason certain people's names are not mentioned in and that's why some people are trying to revise history and saying the person did not really do anything like that. Is it like they did terrible things? We forgive, we try not to dwell on those things, but you can't go. Listen, my dad, let me finish that thought. You can't go through what he went through or be our disciple or just like him and see him go through all of these things, and you consider those people to be leaders worthy of following or worthy of celebrating in Yoruba land. There's a picture that my dad had, and I hope I find that picture somewhere. I think I have it in the library. After he passed, I think it's one of the pictures I have. Back then, you had almanacs, but you also have pictures of the trial. So you have Awolowo at the center, then you have Omishade and Jakonde and Nauru and so on and so forth. All of them around him, the pictures. My father had that picture. Some of his friends had calendars and almanacs. So when you read this thing, you understand more about his trials, and hopefully you will see why certain people. You have to be very careful of all this, you want Nigeria is a lie. I mean, we want Nigeria, but not what they're saying. What they're saying is a lie. They're trying to, you get your guards down, and they inflict maximum damage. We should not allow that to happen. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to today's reading, because it was a reading. I'm going to go deeper into it next week, but I think we've got enough for today. We have the sessions every weekday, Mondays to Fridays, 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. For those of us just joining, from time to time we talk about projects that we're working on, and I haven't really spoken about any one this year, but been trying to do some things. There are two things. I mean, there are many things, but there are two things that we're trying to get sorted right now. First, so if you want to support us, you can know, you know that there's an opportunity and to be able to support what we're doing. Into all the old power thing, okay? It gives a lot of stress. For 2 weeks is really an issue. So if you'd like to support us, please, I'm going to put out the account details right now, and you can also reach out to me on Telegram at Busui Oris. We're just trying to set up a proper studio. It's quite funny. Sometimes when you're speaking, you hear Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, because there's a call to prayer, and it affects the recording. And sometimes you have all these noises and things like that. And there are some projects that were supposed to start this first quarter, but it's supposed to happen in the studio. So, and it's not small money. So if you'd like to support or you want to be part of it, please reach out to me or use the bank details. Okay, that would be much appreciated. When I say things I want to do, so we're always looking for different ways to ensure that the message gets to more people, particularly younger people. So we have something that we've designed. 1 second, please. Right, that will start shooting very, very soon. All those things require a proper space. You can't be doing it and be hearing all this Allahu Akbar thing. So please use the bank details on the screen to support what we're doing, and also reach out to me on Telegram at Busui Oris. Thank you very, very much. I saw some things in the comment section or sections across different platforms earlier. I'll just see if I could read any before we leave today. Olaluwa says, "What are you feeling emotionally about?" Sorry to ask. I don't know how you read. Maybe that's the way to answer. So I'm a creative, right? I do theater, film, and so on and so forth. And I think that you have to capture the emotions, when you're trying to get stuff. I don't even know how to explain to you, but if you're asking me what was I feeling emotional about, I was feeling emotional about the story. I hope that helps. I can't say more than that. I don't want to start another lecture. Paul Guamela is saying pot of soup. Yes, now when they're looking for everything, maybe they should search the pot of soup as well. All right, glad to be here. YouTube, let's see. Okay, I think you guys were answering questions I was asking earlier. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to call it the day tonight. It's been a wonderful week. We had a good run. We're going to resume on Monday, and we'll get deeper into this whole thing Monday, Tuesday. All right. So again, we have these things every day, but we have full sessions, twice a week, and then we have our sessions other days. We listen like we did yesterday, and then once a week we listen to an elder. We've listened to Chief S.L. Akintola. We've also listened to Chief Bolage. We did that yesterday, and it was fantastic. We're going to do more of that. So every week, one day in a week, we'll listen to elders that we can learn from. Okay, thank you very much for being part of today's session. If you have liked the live, you've shared, across all platforms. I want to thank you very, very much for supporting. These things actually do help us get the word out. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your participation. We're going to listen to the anthems before we go, the Nigerian anthem and the Yoruba anthem. And again, let me also thank those who are giving gifts. I notice sometimes when I'm speaking, like Shaya West just did, thank you very much for the Go Popular and the Heart Me's. Maybe that's what people say, oh, you have to acknowledge people. But if I do it while reading, my break flow. So, but make no mistakes, I appreciate every single gift, whether it's a rose or a heart me or money gun, whatever it is. I really do appreciate it. And I thank you very much for your support. It's a blessing to have those of you who believe in what we are doing on this platform. May God bless you and multiply what you have given. All right, let's have our anthems and then we'll call it a day. If you'd like to support us again, we have so many things we want to do, and we're doing them. Regardless, we're doing them. So let's work together. Let's make it happen. Thank you. Here's the Nigerian anthem. After this, you will hear the Yoruba anthem, and then to be double. Mr. Remy guy. Mr. Remy and his friends in the comment section. Eshe, thank you very much, sir. All right, here's the Nigerian anthem.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace all battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain. Oh, Lord of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be Iṣẹ́ wa fúnlẹ̀ wá, fún ilẹ̀-èdè wa. Tàgbéga, tàgbéga, tàgbéga fáyé rí. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé bá ti bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ mọ́. Ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká jọlá. Ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa. Tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ ògùn ìdè
àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀, ìmọ́lẹ̀ wo ni wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́, Nàìjíríà náà ò ní bàjẹ́. May God bless you. May God keep you and cause His face to shine upon you. May Nigeria work from these stories, from this history, and these readings that we're having to get the materials that we require to build a better nation. All right. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. Akin Omakin, just becoming it's about work. That's why she's not been available. She's, she got into new stuff. So that's why. Well, thank you very much for asking. All right, then. Do have a lovely evening and a wonderful weekend. I'll see you on Monday at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. To have a great night. God bless you. Odaro. Esheun Gidigan. Thank you, Empress, our moderator. Thank you.